When I'm in the middle of running a marathon, and someone comes up to me and says, things are going to really be bad up ahead, that's like, for me, the greatest challenge in the world. I mean, I love that. They haven't set my expectations to be something negative. If anything, they've helped me to set my expectations on, oh yeah? There's nothing, there's no wall up there that I'm interested in at all. When I play in tennis matches in the heat, in the summertime, down in Florida, people will say, well, by the third set, you're just going to be so exhausted, you're going to be sweating so much, and you're going to be cramping, and you're not going to be... And my only reaction to that always is, that's not for me. That's just what other people do, or that's what you do. You just don't allow other people's expectations to become your own. Other people's expectations, you know, as you become more enlightened, are just that. They're their expectations. Your expectations don't come from what other people lay on you. They come from how you process that. And one of the ways you have to process somebody else's negativity is to just say, but that's not mine. I don't own that. That's not for me. You start to spot that. You start seeing it everywhere, wherever you go. You start seeing other people doing this sort of thing and laying negative expectations on, and laying it on yourself as well. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people come up to me and say, oh, you've written a new book. Isn't it going to be really hard to go out and promote it? Or how do you ever go up in front of an audience of people and talk and do that again and after you've done it already 100 times? How could you possibly do that? And it's like, that's all their stuff. What they're really saying to me is, if that were me, I wouldn't be able to approach this from a fresh point of view each time. How do you do that? That's really what they're asking. And I always respond with that. I've never spoke to this audience before. And promoting this book's going to be wonderful. Well, what if you don't get this show or that show? Then I won't be on that show if they don't want me. That doesn't have anything to do with me or with what I'm doing. You know, and great things have no fear of time. You don't get yourself consumed with that. After a while, you learn that you process the things that people say to you from where it's coming from. And you don't own it. You don't become attached to it. It isn't yours. It's never yours. If anything, it just gives you an opportunity to be something even greater than anybody else ever thought that you could become. You see it coming, almost. And you see people subjected to it all the time. I mean, my children very often will come home with, you know, she said this about me, and he said that, and they said I can't do that. And I just always remind them that that's just their opinion. That's all it is. It's just an opinion. What you have is the power to do anything that you want to. Anything. And set your expectations for yourself. And know that you will become what you think about, what you expect to become. You'll become that. You see, if you have in your mind the idea that something is going to be very difficult, and then you have the choice between doing difficult things or easy things, you're always going to opt for the easy things. It's just sort of the way human beings work. So if, for example, you want to lose weight, and you've got yourself convinced how difficult this is going to be, and how painful it's going to be, and what a struggle it's going to be, and I just don't think I can do it, and I don't know how anybody, you know, could ever have to suffer the way I'm going to have to suffer, and you'll be on your weight loss program about an hour and a half. And then along will come a chocolate bar, and you'll say to yourself, now, which is it easier to do? Is it easier to just eat that chocolate bar, or to stay on this stupid diet anyway that I'm just going to go off of in another few hours anyway? And so you'll opt for the easy things. Right? So it's like, what you want to learn to do is to make what it is that you want to accomplish really quite easy, really quite simple. And it really is quite simple to change virtually anything in your life. I mean, even the worst heroin addict in the world, who has finally gotten off of it, ultimately had to do it with his own mind. No matter how much help he had, or how many programs, or how much hypnotism, or whatever it may be, they ultimately still had to opt not to do that any longer. Even if the choice was taken away from them, they had to process it and get off of it themselves. And so whatever it is that you're trying to change, you ultimately still have only yourself to account to. And if you set yourself up to believe that something's going to be very complex and very difficult, I'm working on writing a new book now. If I were to tell myself right now, and I know what's involved in writing a book because I've written a dozen of them, and I know how much time and effort and all, if I were to start out writing a book with that and saying, oh, here's the first page, and I've got to fill 500 more of these, and then I've got to have it edited, and then I've got to go through it, and then I've got to go back through it again, and then I've got to go through the galleys, and it really is a major, major undertaking. You don't do that. I just say to myself, I can write this, and this is going to be fantastic, and I enjoy doing it, and I'll do it one step at a time, one moment at a time, one day at a time. You don't write a whole book in a year. You write it a day at a time. So this is Thursday, and I'll do what you do on Thursday, and so on. And you make it, in your mind, really something that's quite simple. Make things easy. Simplify, simplify. Don't make it some complex thing that involves a therapist and involves having to have all kinds of people change your behavior for you. You can change anything about yourself if you make up your mind that's what you want to do. And if you believe that it's going to be difficult, it will be. You know, whether you believe it's difficult or easy, either way, you'll be right.
Another one of those secrets of the universe is that highly functioning people look for solutions. Never for problems. Always for solutions. I don't want to hear problems. How terrible it is. Isn't this awful? I want to hear, okay, these are the conditions. Let's see what can be done to make it work better. Solution-oriented people.
Extraordinary encompasses most of ordinary. Since we all live in the same physical world, there will always be forms to fill out and rules that demand our obedience and bills to pay and family obligations to attend to. But extraordinary consciousness is associated with your soul, that invisible, boundaryless energy that looks out from behind your eyeballs and has very different interests than your ordinary self does. The ideal of your soul, the thing that it yearns for, is not more knowledge. It is not interested in comparison or winning or light or ownership and not even happiness. The ideal of your soul is space, expansion, and immensity. And the one thing it needs more than anything else is to be free to expand, to reach out, and to embrace the infinite. Why? Because your soul is infinity itself. It has no restrictions or limitations. It resists being fenced in. And when you attempt to contain it with rules and obligations, it is miserable. Your invisible self is extraordinary because it is a fragment of the universal soul which itself is infinite. The part of you that knows you have a greatness and is stirred by the idea of you expanding and removing any and all limitations is what I'm addressing here in Wishes Fulfilled. This is your new self-concept, one that is inspired by your soul. So let's take a look at this idea and then examine what you need to do in order to make your self-concept congruent with how you want to live your life and the powerful role you can begin to assume as a co-fulfiller of all of your rational, sensible wishes and desires. So what is your self-concept? Simply put, your concept of yourself is everything that you believe to be true. And everything that you believe to be true about yourself has landed you precisely where you live and breathe every day of your life. Your beliefs about yourself are like the ingredients in a recipe that you use to create your self-concept. You begin this exciting adventure of changing your concept of yourself by being willing to die to your present self. That's right, by relinquishing your personal history as the arbiter of your life. You cease to resist your fuller potential. You simply no longer choose to form your identity on the basis of what you've been taught. Remind yourself that everything you believe to be true has brought you to this point where you want to explore rather than resist your higher powers. In The Power of Awareness, Neville emphatically explains that to be transformed, the whole basis of your thoughts must change. But your thoughts cannot change unless you have new ideas for you to think from your ideas. How do you find the way to ideas that will help you change your thoughts? Start by saying and writing an affirmation that appeals to you. Create your unique, heartfelt affirmation, such as, I have a burning desire, an inner flame that will not be extinguished by outer forces, to know and live from higher regions, to be transformed so that my new concept of myself will no longer include any limitations. I am willing to challenge and change any thoughts that impede my having a higher vision of myself. I'm suggesting you open your thought process to a new idea that will help you as you begin changing your concept of yourself. You can think of yourself as a divine, limitless being rather than a person who doesn't have a choice when it comes to your thoughts. Think of yourself as an observer, contemplating and selecting thoughts that you choose from that never-ending stream of thoughts on your inner screen, 24/7, 365. Watch thoughts stream by from wherever they originate and observe them rapidly transitioning and combining and appearing and then disappearing. Snatch a thought from the running ribbon of thoughts and contemplate it. As you toss it around, notice how you feel, sad, depressed, happy, frightened, so on. Every thought going by has an imprint on your concept of yourself. First, be the observer, and then the contemplator. Now become the choice maker, who can consciously decide to put that thought back onto the running stream and pick a different one, a thought that perhaps allows you to feel better. I am okay. I look fine. I will lose a few pounds. I am loved. I am divine. These, and millions more like them, are thoughts that you can opt for rather than the ones you've become accustomed to choosing in the past. This is how you begin a new process to change your concept of yourself. You accept as irrevocable that it is not you setting the stream of thoughts into motion, and that stopping thinking isn't possible at this stage of your evolution. At this stage, the essence of your being is to observe, contemplate, and then choose. This can all be done in a fraction of a nanosecond. The thoughts will keep appearing on your mental TV screen, just like the stock quotations, but you'll now be choosing the ones you want to focus on, gather, retain, or just let go. I'm encouraging you to initiate a habit of choosing thoughts and ideas that support feeling good and powerful, and that elevate you to a higher level of consciousness, where your self-concept welcomes your higher self. So let's first examine this question of who you are. Who am I? Consider how many bodies you've occupied since birth. Who is the I that continues to leave one body behind and then enter another? You know for certain that you, the person that you call I, the one attempting to figure out who you are, started out in a little baby body weighing somewhere between 5 and 10 pounds. The I that is you fully entered and occupied that little baby body. Gradually you began to discard that baby body and move into a small toddler body that crawled, and then it walked, and then it ran, and took on an entirely new appearance. Your 2-year-old self would find it difficult to recognize the baby body that you'd now completely abandoned. You lived in this toddler body for a while and then discarded it, too, including every cell that was in your body at birth. The subsequent body you entered was a prepubescent body that bore a similarity to your toddler body, but was completely different. The I in the question still hasn't been discovered, but it's become absolutely clear that you are obviously not your body. Why? Because the I has remained, though it continuously sheds the body that it occupies. This strange phenomenon of you being an I that continuously enters, discards, and re-enters a new body has proceeded right up until this very moment. I am currently in a 71-year-old body that's nothing like the body I occupied 50 years ago. I remember well what that 20-year-old body I occupied looked like, and what it could do, and what it knew, and what it didn't know, but I can't find it anywhere. It's simply an illusion. It's gone from this physical world, as is every body that both you and I have occupied in our entire lifetime. The I that I use to describe myself is not so obsessed that he insists upon staying only in one body. In fact, the I that is me finally recognizes the ancient spiritual truth spoken by divine masters since antiquity. None of us are really doing anything. Rather, we, that is our bodies, are merely being done. What is your body being done by? An invisible, organizing intelligence that takes the cells of your body, changes them into new cells, and discards the old cells. The I that you think you are observes the entire process, for the most part helplessly. The physical body that you think of as you is rearranged in a pattern designed by a formless intelligence independent of your opinion. This I that you use to describe yourself isn't the physical form that you occupy and take with you everywhere. Quantum physics states that the body you're occupying, which is listening to these words right now, is completely different from the body you were in when you listened to the previous paragraph. Such is the nature of the physical world in which we all live. The ancient philosopher Heraclitus put it this way several thousand years ago, and it's true today. Quote, all things are in motion and nothing is at rest. You cannot go into the same river twice, unquote. A river is a constantly changing phenomenon, as is a tree, a mountain, a goat, a human, and the entire physical universe, including Earth. That which defines a thing, therefore, is not physical in nature, it's metaphysical. When asked what is real, an ancient spiritual avatar responded without hesitation, that is real, which never changes. And since your body is in a continuous state of change, it really isn't real, according to this definition. If you try to find that toddler body you once occupied, you realize that it's not real, since it no longer exists. Even while you were in it years ago, you couldn't call it real, because the moment you pinpointed and defined it as real, it would be something else, something new. What you're calling real would already have disappeared. Still, you know with all of this change taking place that there is a changeless component to who you are. The I in that toddler body hasn't changed. It's in the body that you currently occupy. The I is your higher self, changeless and real. This higher self is who you are. When you make this discovery and consciously befriend the I that you are, nothing is impossible. Keep in mind that if it is changing, it's not real. The I in the question, who am I, isn't anything that involves the physical you, since that continuously changes and disappears. Therefore, to answer the question, who am I, with any reference to your body and its various talents, accomplishments, accumulations, or physical prowess, is to define yourself as unreal. Who you are, then, must be changeless, and therefore birthless, as well as deathless. Who you are is a formless energy, a spirit, if you will, with the capacity to be unchanged and at the same time occupy an infinity of bodies. Think about this. It is truly a bewildering phenomenon. You are changeless and therefore real. What you've believed were facts explaining who you are simply illusions, or what metaphysicians call unreal. You're not an American, an Italian, or an African. You're not a male or a female, a Democrat or a Republican. You're one with the true oneness, God. You are not athletic or magical, mathematical or literary, or any other label. Transcending labels, particularly those that have been placed on you by others in your past, opens you to the opportunity of soaring in the now in any way that you desire. You can be all things at any present moment in your life.
When this divine intelligence is limitless and without boundaries and is who we are, is just one of those absurd notions that tells us that it is our lower identities that who we are, rather than that which is noticing and watching it and living in it and is ageless and timeless and formless.